All right, hi everyone, welcome back. I'm very excited to introduce our last presenter, Jim from Wisconsin Department of Administration. And thank you everybody for being patient. I know this has been a long day, but we've had great presentations and this is a great way to end to see what project updates we have in Wisconsin, as well as with how we can use this data information and what this means for stakeholders in the future. So if everyone is all set, I am happy to turn over to Jim.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Hello?
can.
Okay, can you see my screen?
I can, yes.
Okay, then we're all set. Okay, well, hi everybody. It's really great to be here. I really do enjoy this group and interacting with it and having projects up in this area so I can get out of Madison and have some fun. So today I am going to talk about a few things that are going on. This is mainly just to let you know that these things exist and that they will be hopefully something that you can use. If not, then you can tell someone else about them. I'm the Geographic Information Officer at the Department of Administration, and I work for the Land Information Program. And we are primarily a grant program, and we administer around $6 million in funds, mostly to county GIS offices, LIOs. And the work that I do is kind of adjacent to that. I help to leverage county funds, particularly with the federal lidar program, the 3DEP program. And so we'll just give a quick update on that, and then we'll go through some of these other things that are going on. There's besides the federal lidar program, there's coming up pretty soon what's called the 3D hydrography program. It used to be called the NHD, or the National Hydrography Program. And it'll be something very similar to the lidar program, but it'll be aimed at creating new hydrographic data sets. I'm also going to talk a little bit about our WICDI project, better known as the culvert project. Also, the last three things here are sort of things that are of interest and may or may not impact you right away, but I think they probably will eventually. And one is the climate change impact group that Wisconsin has. We've formed a geospatial working group to work with that, and that's been pretty interesting so far. The other is a development of an environmental equity tool. It's called WEET, for the lack of anything better. And then another big data sort of thing that's coming up is the CCAP program is going to start up with 1 meter land cover, which should be a lot of fun. So without further ado, we'll talk about our most recent 3DEP LiDAR proposal. This is number 8, I believe, 7 and 8 maybe, going in this year. It was submitted last month in October, and these compete with folks in the rest of the country for the dollars that are available. And so far, we've had all our projects funded, and this is kind of special because it's in a way it's kind of finishing up this process. Not that the process will end, but it's going to complete the coverage of what's known as QL2 LiDAR data for the state. QL2 is just a standard that the USGS uses for 2 points per square meter lidar points and accuracy of 10 centimeters. And so the USGS has a goal to do the whole country, have it done by 2024. So we're mainly competing with other big states, and a lot of those states don't have state programs. They're wholly dependent on the USGS. So I think we get pretty good mileage because we have such a strong state component. Like I said, we coordinate this every year. Our county GIS programs are the biggest local partner in Wisconsin, and they're able to use their WLIP strategic initiative funding, which amounts to around $40,000 to $50,000 a year for things like imagery and lidar acquisitions, and they've done a lot of good with that money. We've actually got 2 proposals in this year covering these 12 counties in yellow, and it just so happens that 8 of those are what are known as QL1 counties, which is a buy-up to 8 points per meter. And I'm sorry I didn't bring an example of what that difference looks like, but as you can imagine, going from 2 points to 8 points per square meter, you hit the ground a lot more, and that way you're able to distinguish features a lot better. So our status this year, again, we sort of hit a milestone back in 2018 with full coverage of the state. But not all of that data was publicly available, so it didn't really benefit everybody. And a lot of the earlier data wasn't to any particular standards, so the USGS was going to not count those in our total. So that's where we were 3 years ago, and since that time, we've been able to put together programs for those 29 counties, and so just kind of figuring out kind of what overall progress we've made. I come out with around 13 million for these QL1 or QL2 projects that went through the federal program. And of that, our local contribution was in the range of 4 to 5 million. That's not counting any buy-ups or anything that those folks may have made, with the vendor, but that's just for the data acquisition. So that's a really tremendous contribution for everybody. Because these data sets are now in the public domain and usable by anyone. So let's see. We're kind of trying to figure out what comes after this milestone. It'll take about 2 years for the data to become available for this last collection, but that won't stop us from thinking about what comes next. And we don't really have any sort of guidance yet on what that might be. Topography, nearshore, and riverine might be something that they are willing to help fund. Bathymetry, there's actually been a lot of that done in ports along the coastal areas. There will definitely be a lot more QL1 and what's called QL0, which is 30 points per square meter, because you can do a lot more with that data, classifying the lidar points and the different objects like power lines and trees and buildings and stuff. And then there's possibly this greater integration with their upcoming hydrography program. We don't know what that's going to look like. So as a state, we have to sort of start thinking about how we might do this. Do we want to do it the way we sort of did it before? That nice sort of patchwork quilt kind of pattern that you see, or something that's maybe a little more organized into, say, watersheds or regions or something like that. That would certainly make it easier to do watershed modeling if that were the case. And then how other things that might impact this, can we drag the state kicking and screaming into participating in the funding a little bit more? And will there be like federal infrastructure funds and climate resiliency funding available? Almost certainly the answer is going to be yes, but it's going to take some sleuthing to figure out how to get that into our programs. That hydrography program that I sort of mentioned, I only have this one slide because I really don't have much on it yet. It kind of replaces and builds on the old National Hydrography NHD data set. And what's unique, or what's added to this, is that they try to build elevation into the hydro features, so that they're things like stream slope and the flatness of various water bodies is kept in the data. There will most certainly be a new USGS cost sharing program like 3DEP. We don't know what that'll look like, but it'll probably look a lot like 3DEP. And it may start as early as next year. It really depends on the funding levels, how they get started. And again, it's time for us to think about it now, while we're getting our budgets and stuff aligned, even though we don't know how much it's going to be or what we're going to do with it. But at least it's a good point to start talking about this. One of the things that I'm particularly interested in is how do we integrate this with wetland mapping and other types of land cover mapping, so that it's not one of these deals where we do the lidar, it takes 8 years, we do the hydrography, it takes the next 8 years, and then so on and so forth. It would be really nice to integrate these things so that they're sort of ready to be used, and we're not just waiting around for the next layer to come about. So we'll try to think about that. Okay, that's those two programs. The next thing here is I'm going to talk about the WICDI project, or the Coastal Data Infrastructure. And this is a project that comes through our coastal management program. I sit next to them at DOA, and Mike Fries is my boss, and he is a boss of both the WLIP program and the coastal program. So we trade jokes back and forth here, and sometimes money. So this is the funding for this came from NOAA. It's called a Project of Special Merit, and one of the things that sort of drove this activity in this region, as you all know, there's been a lot of flooding. And so I had to include my gratuitous flooding pictures. And this really helped define that project. Everybody was doing culvert mapping, so we wanted something that would help support that. So what sort of came out of it, and what got proposed to NOAA, was a kind of a community of practice around culvert mapping and hazard mapping, and getting the data sort of into a common database. Not a standardized database, but a common database, and that's a pretty big distinction. And our contractor for this is the State Cartographer's Office. So they began 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, they began collecting various culvert inventories from around the region, and we've also collected from other parts of the state just because we could. And these are some of the data sets that were donated. And from that, together with our community practice, we started looking at what those data sets contained, what their purpose was, and trying to make kind of an overall structure that accepted those different data sets. We didn't include every attribute, but we sort of grouped them into the most important with help from the community of practice. And we ended up with a database model. It's in a file geo database, and it's really kind of just one big happy file. And but it does have various elements that sort of logically group together. And let's see, yeah, so here's an example and of a road stream crossing index. Yeah. So anyway, potential uses. We've been using it as a precursor to hydro enforcement of our DEMs, using the culvert locations to map cut lines. I think they're called breach lines in Minnesota for those Minnesotans that are here. And you know, there's lots of other uses. The main thing that we saw of value was a simple way, using this database and training people how to put data in it, get data out of it, was a simple way for local governments, particularly smaller local governments, to document repetitive losses during these disasters and future disasters. So that's one of the big things that we're working on. And we have in progress a web app that'll help folks sort of visualize this. This is the region, and it's colored up by condition of culverts, which is, as you can see, there's an you know, probably you know, a third of them have a condition. The rest of them are just out there. The other another aspect of our WICDI study was to try to develop some culvert vulnerability tools. We had a coastal management fellow who did some research on this, and she looked at various models and tried to come up with a fairly simple GIS model that was based on statistics of land cover, and using the damages from the 2016 flooding, developed kind of a statistical model of what those land use factors might have been. Unfortunately, Emma left in last February, so we've been kind of hobbling along, trying to figure out what to do next. But we're getting it revved up to kind of finish this side of the project next spring and next summer. One of the important aspects of this is the development of what we are calling culvert catchments. So you know, obviously they can be very complicated. They're nested structures within a larger culvert, and keeping track of these things is quite challenging. The third thing that we've been spending quite a bit of time on is the development of field tools that will collect data using Survey 123 or an open source collector called Kobo Toolbox. And again, particularly aimed at smaller, you know, township level road departments. This is in Lincoln Township in Bayfield County. We had a workshop there, and this is obviously not a culvert anymore. This is one that got replaced with a bridge, and So again, the tool is very simple. It's very modifiable. If you want different attributes, you can certainly have those. And we're trying to work out sort of licensing issues with using the Survey 123, so people can try it out in a workshop setting and then use it for a while. And our next workshop is coming up November 30th at the Ashland County Road Department garage. And if you want to find out more about that, contact one of our project staff, Melanie. Let's see, did I get that one done? Yeah. Okay, so that's it for WICDI. This is, as I mentioned, there's been a group, a climate change impact group. It was formed by the DNR and the University of Wisconsin-Madison, back in the 2000s, and they did a sort of initial report, I think around 2011, and then they sort of went underground for a couple of years, and now they're back, and they're obviously a lot of work has been done in that amount of time, and so there's lots of sort of new folks working on this, and we were very happy to get them to agree that GIS sort of underpinned all of the working groups, all of the various working groups in this outfit, and that a separate geospatial working group was in order. And Larry Cutforth organized that. He's the GIS boss at DNR. And we've got some other fine folks helping out with that. And our main thing is trying to interview the other working groups and kind of figure out what their data needs are as a starting point. So far, we've done the sort of the climate prediction folks and the infrastructure working group. We're hoping to do ag and forestry next. That'll be a lot of fun. A lot of these folks are of course data driven, particularly in the climate and the infrastructure group. The climate models that they're using to predict what's going to happen in the next 30 to 80 years, and those data sets are very specific to the analytical world that they live in, and not very easy for normal people, and I would include the GIS folks in that realm. So we're trying to outline some ideas for how we get their data into forms that could be used by the public and by especially communities that want to do things like risk assessment. Okay, so this one gentleman at the university has this Wisconsin rainfall project. It's a fascinating project where he takes the NextRad radar and statistically moves that data around so that you can figure out what a 50-year storm might look like in 2050, and then obviously take that spatial distribution of rainfall, apply it to a land surface, see where the water runs, and figure out who's underwater and who's not. So that's kind of an exciting piece that we're looking at to help contribute to get that data out so that it's easier to use and easier to access. Maybe not easier to use, but at least get it into a form that folks can start using it. This whole arrangement here is gonna take some time, and we're not exactly rolling in money to do these things, so it's probably gonna take a while, but it's certainly, I think, an important part of our work in the next couple of years to get this figured out. Kind of related to that, there's another group. This is mainly state agencies, doesn't involve the university very much yet. Department of Health Services, the Economic Development Group, DNR, and yours truly in DOA. And the folks at WEDC and Health have been doing, particularly Health have been doing these environmental, well, equity tools for quite some time. They have a heat tool and they have a flood tool, and they're working on updating those. And basically what they do is they take sort of the prediction of where the heat is going to be happening with climate change, and then where are the communities at risk for added health problems, asthma, lack of green space, all those kinds of things. And this process gets rolled into these tools, and sort of the main character has always been the EPA's EJ screen tool, but there are a bunch of other states that have done this in the past, and the folks in Wisconsin thought it was time for us to do one that was Wisconsin specific. So we're working on that, and it's been interesting because the folks at EDC and Health take a very public look at what the data might be. I'm not used to that, going out and asking the public what they want to see in their GIS data. But we've had 3 of these listening sessions so far, and they've been fascinating. The folks that come to these really don't, I would say, probably don't represent the vast majority of the public. They're folks like a public health worker in Sauk County, or an economic development person in a small town. They're obviously professionals, and they have very distinct ideas of how this can help them. So in that sense, it's been really good. They've had lots of interesting ideas. Let's see. So the timeline is we're working on surveys and writing up the results of these listening sessions. And then somebody, we're not sure who, probably a contractor, will work on developing any sort of specific data for that, and the actual tool, which is going to be some kind of a web mapping application. Probably very similar to what these other states are doing. To me, it's still a little fuzzy how this is going to be used, but it is an exercise that gets GIS topics in front of decision makers. And I don't know if any of you have problems getting GIS topics in front of decision makers, but all I can tell you is it's really hard at the state level because they've got so many other things going on. And this is one way that this is happening right now, and so we need to do a good job on it, and we do need to figure out how it's going to work, and then what that might mean for looking at programs. So like the example I like to use is, in DOA, there's the Division of Energy, Housing, and something else. It's called Decker. And they do housing assistance to low-income families. So, could they use something like this tool to geocode their projects and see how they're doing? Are they reaching the communities that you know, need that kind of assistance, or are they getting somebody else? Who knows? This would be one way to help them find out. Okay, I think this is the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to, you know, be done here in a few minutes, which is nice. The other thing I just found out about last week, we've been you know, through the coastal management program, we've been you know, in contact with the GIS folks at NOAA, particularly in the Office of Coastal Management, and a fine gentleman there, Nate Harold, is in charge of what's called the CCAP, Coastal Change Analysis Program. It's a land cover mapping program, and they do the areas of the United States that are next to the coasts, and fortunately they include the Great Lakes in that. So we do get a big chunk of data from them. And what's really exciting is their traditional product was, of course, a 30-meter satellite-based land cover, and for a couple of years now they've been trying to move to something you know, closer to the ground, and a 1 to 5 meter land cover, and it looks like they've got funding to do the coastal areas at 1 meter. So our trick will be to see if we can find dollars to match that and do the rest of the state, so that we have a nice 1 meter land cover data set for the whole state. And so just think of all the groovy things you could do with that. You know, it's quite a bit different than the things like the old WISC land or the you know, the federal databases. It'll be really useful for a lot of land and water applications. Oh, here we go. Just to give you a kind of a flavor, this is Green Bay, of course. And, you know, here's a regular old aerial photo. This is what the old CCAP used to look like at 30 meters. And you know, you can at least sort of get the idea that it will be closer to the area photo than it will be to the 30-meter stuff. So individual buildings and roads and trees and other things become possible as part of this. So again, very, very much looking forward to that. So I am done. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, thank you, Jim, so much for presenting. I'm really excited about a lot of these projects. I have multiple questions, but does anyone have any questions in the chat or want to turn their mic on?
I bet Clint Little does. He's always got questions. Or he might be asleep. It's that time of day. Okay, well, quite a group.
It's okay. I'll get the conversation started.
Oh, okay. Well,
I learned a lot from your presentation. Thank you. I'm also going to link in a few of the topics that you mentioned so that people in the chat can access those. I didn't get the links for all of them, but for example, here is the environmental equity tool, or WEET. And then no, you're talking more as well about the Wisconsin Coastal Management Data Infrastructure. I did find that website as well that has Melanie's information. And then if you have any events coming up or anything like that, and this applies to everyone in the audience as well, if you have events, please send them my way. I can distribute it to our email list as well. I know there's a lot going on, so it's helpful to have those connections and learn what is happening around here. So if you have like a meeting link or anything like that for November 30th, I would love to be able to share that with everyone.
Melanie's on vacation this week, so I couldn't, get the blurb.
No worries. I wouldn't bother her yet, but I'll be in touch, and then we can get that in the future before that meeting, as well as future meetings. I do have a couple questions. Did anyone want to ask anything?
Just go ahead.
All right.
They'll wake up.
Okay, so going back to the environmental equity tools, like you're saying, bringing that information to decision makers and stakeholders, I know that can be really difficult to go from like quantitative to qualitative, or looking at, sometimes data can be very black and white, but when you approach the human aspect of it, you need to be able to adapt that and connect with people. Do you have any advice for how you can reach out to decision makers, make them understand that this is a good topic to listen to, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, well, that's a good question in the sense that, boy, we haven't done this yet. So the good thing is, because the governor's office, equity and climate and resiliency are all on the discussion list again. It's a lot easier to bring these things up, and it does, being up on the tools and what they mean, and we're kind of playing catch up, right? Because we haven't done these things and to that degree. So yeah, I on one hand, you kind of know where the communities are that we're talking about, and but it does, the tool uses a number of demographic factors, and then it does add in things like, where are all the brown fields, where are all the leaking underground storage tanks, and it just sort of builds up this overwhelming story of years and years of things going on in these communities. So I don't know if that makes any difference in how decision makers make decisions, but I guess we're going to find out.
It's a really powerful tool. All these are, but it definitely, when you start talking about the environmental equity tool, like, I'm really excited because it's an important aspect, especially as you're saying, with climate change, it's exacerbating a lot of these inequalities.
Right, and I think it'll be good, because I think having our community work on these things will really help them to understand what their community is like, and contributing good ideas to make this even better. So it's a good development.
Definitely, thank you. I do have another question. There's Clint.
I didn't want to disappoint and not ask a question. I'll just say really quick, Jim kind of started off with really how much he kind of enjoyed working or attending these events. Great job today organizing this. I've been kind of working and listening in, and I really appreciate the time you guys put into organizing this and hosting it, and what I was exposed to today was awesome. So thank you very much. Jim, my question is related to the CCAP, because I hadn't heard that the higher resolution was moving forward. How far inland are they going on the coast?
Well, that's a good question. Let me see if I can bring up the map again here. It's there's a coastal management zone that they talk about, and let's see there she is. Okay, and get her on there. Okay. See, this is on my little map. This goes pretty far inland. This is obviously part of the Mississippi watershed, but it's considered part of the coastal zone for some reason, and which is going to just be your Lake Superior area. So maybe let's see if I can find the other map. I had it here.
In Minnesota. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
In Minnesota, I think we make out like bandits in CCAP on what you can see what they cover for us. So I was wondering if it was just going to be near shore or actually further inland.
I think you do make it like, I don't know if you, okay, hang on a second. I just found it, and now can I get it in my thing here? Okay, can you see that? The big red blob?
Yes.
Okay, that's a pretty hefty chunk of northern Minnesota.
Yes. So it's going to be basically the same footprint, but at the higher resolution.
I haven't confirmed that, but sure. I would assume so, because they try to do stuff the way so they can build up over time. He did say, I did ask him, are you gonna be looking for partners? And so the answer to that was yes. So go talk to Big Dan and get some money.
Yeah. And then one last question before you leave, can you take us out with a little song on your guitar?
No. That's like the second time this week somebody wanted a song, but I've got a frog in my throat, so. Thanks, Clint.
And my apologies, Clint, for interrupting you earlier. I was just going to make a comment. It's that you're a geographer when you have 30 plus tabs, and 30 is like the conservative side of that. So
that's just one screen.
I don't know if anyone else knows this tool. It's called One Tab. It lets you condense everything to one tab and reopen them. However, that list gets very long after a while.
Yeah. Wow. Is that in Chrome?
I think it's actually they have it for all of the main popular browsers. I can share my screen of it. It's been a blessing and a curse to have.
So the question would be, does it persist from when you turn your computer off to when you turn it on again?
Yes. So depending on the browser, so for example, I do have two browsers like Google Chrome and Firefox. So they're I can sync them if I make a one-tab account. I can sync that across things, but and then if you have the tab, so I'm just gonna do it really quick. Do one tab, and then everything is there, and then I can go through and close some or restore all, or even share with someone else. If, let's say, I was trying to collect resources for someone, I could then share that resource.
Well, that made the whole day worth it. That's great.
It's nice, but after a while you realize, you go back, you're like, I've got 300 tabs.
Tab zone, yeah. True.
I actually had one more question.
Sure.
Sam, I have had some experience with classification, manual digitizing classification and automated, supervised, unsupervised, and I think it's a lot of fun. So my question was, if you do the entire state at the 1 meter for the CCAP, who do you have digitizing? Do you usually have a team? Is it one person?
Well, this would be, as maybe Clint knows more about this. CCAP has a bunch of contractors that they work with. They don't do it themselves.
Yeah.
and a lot of them, I believe, are kind of traditional, unsupervised classification type folks like you were talking about. But I think there's also a lot of machine learning folks that are doing things now, and so they haven't really said which way that they're gonna go with that. But it'll be interesting to find out. They're real good at what they do, so it's an exciting development, I think. So you guys will be covered pretty good up there. So
yeah, exciting. I wasn't sure if the county, if counties also do it and participate in it or not. I know poor Scott. I'm just adding more and more projects to my mental list.
Yeah, I think the the cool thing is you guys can just get the data when it's available and start using it. That's the cool thing. The rest of us are going to have to finagle our way into this. And one of the things that I've been trying to talk to like the USGS folks, they're very much this sequential, we got to do the lidar and then we got to, they're trying to do the whole country. That's, but again, the federal agencies have this tendency to kind of stop work where their responsibilities end. So, they'll, USGS will do stuff out to the coast and then they'll stop because that's NOAA's realm, right? And it gets to be kind of a, tricky, getting the federal agencies to work together so that things are more seamless. I think that's where, at least at the state level, and possibly, having some good county folks to do pilot projects to kind of show what's possible with that, would be really handy. And we're, we've kind of got two areas where that's kind of evolving. One is the Marengo watershed in Ashland and Bayfield, and the other would be Green Bay and the Fox Basin. And those would be really good targets for having some kind of an integrated approach to doing the hydrography, to doing wetlands, to doing land cover, and all those fun things, so that they can do a big honking flood model that includes all that stuff, and be ready for the next 1,000-year flooding rainfall event. So that's what I'm shooting for with some of this stuff, or hoping that it gets there.
Well, thank you so much. That is really good information. Yeah, definitely. It's great to see how much local government and state government collaborates across the board. I really thought about that way.
We couldn't do it without you guys, that's for sure. And Scott's been a really good partner. So as has all the counties up there. You know, they're all real good to work with.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yep.
Is there anyone else in the chat that has any questions that
Oops,
they like to share?
Scott.
Thanks, Jim. That does mean a lot to us up here. Yeah, Sofia has done a great job today, I think. I don't know if we were going to toy with kind of our next steps. Next meeting would be maybe a hybrid in the county boardroom where it would be in person and online. So, anybody have any thoughts on that?
When would that be? Like next May or June?
Yeah, probably in the springtime sometime.
Yeah. Well,
we've been having our county boardroom is actually set up to do hybrid meetings, so works out pretty well through Teams. As long as you push all the right buttons.
I think we're going to sell our building. Nobody wants to go back to work.
Yeah. I noticed it's kind of slim in the county offices also. Just that's a good sign of a good IT department, if you're able to work from home and connect and do your job and be productive.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. They're fine.
I think as like GIS professionals, we're always pushing their limits, and I think there's probably a slight rub there sometimes when that happens, because we want more space, we want more power, or whatever it is, and we got to make them work a little bit harder.
Speaking of power, oh, there it is. That video, is that drone footage there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's that at?
That is Tomahawk Lake Park.
Okay.
It's a new park that I think they just expanded. It might have been part of not a coastal grant, but a lakes protection grant where they added some cross-country skiing to the area, and I think there's a warming shed. So, and it adjoins. It's a town park that adjoins county forest. So,
well, it looks like the lake level is high on that.
Yeah, it is. We do have. It's kind of that Pigeon Lake, area, and it isn't the St. Louis watershed, but yeah, that should be coming down. That was a couple of years ago. Pigeon Lake is starting to recede a little bit. It's kind of neat. The fishing pier there and some more recreation. So it's in the town of Barnes in the west part of the county.
My apologies, Scott. I definitely did not give you credit for these videos at the start of our presentation, but I want to make sure that our audience does know that a lot of times these oblique footage is done to see, kind of get a general idea of the area. Oftentimes it's a graded format, but these oblique videos are some of my favorite to see. It's always really breathtaking to see when you're flying itself, as well as seeing the footage later. So for all these slides, credit goes to Scott for this footage.
Yeah, it's kind of neat to get out there. You'll be having a plethora of drone footage here pretty soon also.
Well, I want to thank everyone for attending today, and definitely all of our presenters. Thank you, Jim, for finishing up our user meeting today. It's been a great day. I've learned a lot, and I've got to meet a lot of people I wouldn't have otherwise if we didn't have this user meeting today. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me at, see if I can get my email here in chat. Otherwise, you do get my emails if you're part of the user group meeting email list, but I will include that in chat as well. If you have any questions or want again to contact some presenters, let me know. We can get you in touch. Or if you have any questions for Scott or anyone else as well, please let us know and stay tuned for emails. I have recorded most of our presentations today. However, I did miss a couple or parts of a couple, so I will reach out to those presenters and see if they are okay with sharing their presentation. I'll put that then on our website. Otherwise, I am really thankful everyone is here. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for attending. That was pretty good.
I think so. That was, besides the hardtack of the this morning in the docking station, everything I think went pretty well.
Oh, what happened with the docking station?
My docking station and internet wasn't connecting, so I was able to connect to our monitors, but not our equipment. So keyboard, camera, microphone was not working unless I use laptop alone. However, I have kind of a presentation set up where I've got notes on one side and the slide volume, and then the presentation on the other. And if it presented just from my laptop, I would have not been able to have that view. I called in Michelle. She ran over with a new docking station, but something happened. She wiggled something. We kind of shifted the dock and ended up reconnecting and working. And then the only thing else I had was sometimes the full screen wouldn't work, but compared to not being able to stream or present
that was a minor issue. I don't know why that always has to happen on the days that you need it to work.
I've never experienced that before, or the K drive not connecting. So it was just, it was a heart attack.
Yeah, I know. My docking station, you gotta just get that cord in there right. And if you wiggle it, it doesn't. And then it says there's always that power failure. It's something that says there's not enough power going into your device for some reason. I don't know. But
It was.
No, it worked. It worked.
It did.
It was good.
I kind of wish I had that problem in the future, so I wasn't so scared when it occurred. But I can always rely on technology not always being reliable. That's one constant.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's, just imagine, I always say like the drone stuff, you're putting a computer in the air, and when you put wings on a computer, what the heck's gonna happen? It's crazy.
And actually, that was one question I had for Dr. Mishra today. That we ran out of time for, but I wanted to ask him. There's now those hybrid UAVs and like the fixed wings that you're saying that last for 8 or 10 hours. I wonder, he's familiar with fixed wing. Have you flown fixed wing before?
No, because it doesn't make sense here.
Yeah. I was wondering about maneuverability. No?
For the fixed wing?
Yeah, because like
Well,
you got the longer fly time, but do you have as much control over it?
I think I would imagine you got probably not like a drone. We have too many trees, so if you almost need like a field to take off in all the time, and how do I know? That's why the ETOLs or EVTOL systems where they take off vertically and then you can glide, start gliding, with the fixed wing. I did look into it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the battery life to be so different. I mean, I think drones almost started with fixed winged first, but then fixed wing really, or not, excuse me, fixed wing didn't take off as much as the drone did, or
Yeah, I think
rotor copter.
I think the reason is that it's limited in certain areas. You got to have a takeoff area. How many hours did he say?
I think he was talking about a company called Alti, like ALT and then I. He said about 8 or 10 hours. I'm not sure. I kind of wanted to see if he had actually flown those before, if that's more of what he's expecting or what
Maybe
he's
that's
heard.
more professional, like military almost, or federal government.
Yeah. So I know back in the day, like some of the not first, but like some of the peer-reviewed remote sensing like journals about using fixed wing or drones, that was done in like the late 1990s and early 2000s, and those little fixed wing like drones essentially would be $100,000 back then. Now price is minimal, but I like that was what I first learned about drones was fixed wing, but it seems so much harder to fly.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think the next thing will be where the lidar gets a little more inexpensive. And there is a sensor now that we could buy, but it's not like a real system like an engineering firm would use.
Yeah.
The quality is probably not as good, but if you start with something like that, and then it gets you into the workflow. Yeah, you can use it for what it's intended use. So then you start working with processing LiDAR data after, or in the beginning, and then as time goes on, you get better and better sensors, replacement sensors. So I don't know. The other thing I wonder is if we should get upgrade our hardware more often, kind of like what they do with trucks. Here they sell them at a lower mileage, and they basically sell them for what they've used them for. We could probably
for drones, for old drones.
Yeah. But the thing is, we're still building. I mean, we don't have a fleet. We just have a couple.
Yet, right?
So yeah,
One day.
I don't know if it makes sense right now or not.
Yeah.
Although forestry has theirs. Basically sell them before they get too old and they lose their value. Is what you. And then you buy a new one basically for the same price, or a quarter of the price.
Yeah,
That's one
especially
thing.
as things get cheaper and better.
Mhm. So how does it feel after you're done?
I'm a little sleep deprived, but no,
Deprived?
it's good. Oh, sleep deprived. No, not
Oh,
no, it was good.
you were a little worried.
I was having some problems with our working between two PowerPoint and Canva, because Canva has music that is royalty free and copyright free, or like Creative Commons. So that music
Mhm.
that we use, and if I repost on YouTube, they won't get flagged or taken down. Or even if they
Oh,
get flagged, we just tell YouTube like, hey, this is, point them to Canva's copyright info. Whereas with like PowerPoint, I was having trouble doing so. So it was more of just trying to work between both, and I made a backup of this presentation in PowerPoint, but since it's different settings, I just made a lot of work for myself just to make sure, in case things didn't
mhm.
work. So I know there was a lot of buffering this morning, and right now there's not so much. Maybe it's because people are going home and there's less people on our county internet right now. It seems to be going really smoothly.
You mean the video? It's a little
Yeah,
jerky here.
is it? Okay. I
I don't know if that's my internet or what, but
It might be mine. Well, I'm at the county. Earlier was just buffering a lot, I felt like. So I guess jerky is better than buffering. But I think what I'll do in the future is see if I can reduce the size of some of these videos without
are these
losing
on
too.
YouTube?
No, this is on, this is directly uploaded videos
To
on
the
Canva.
there. Oh,
So
I can tell this video has gotten better. There's a little jerky here.
I think this is partially just buffering.
Well, I mean the way I move the camera is what I'm saying.
Oh,
I can tell. It's like I'm turning a road. You're supposed to turn like a train.
I hope people appreciated it, at least to see some of this footage while waiting.
I think so. Thought it was kind of neat. That surprised me. Yeah. And then you use different ones. It wasn't the same one over and over again.
Yes, and the thing is, I would have used more of your newer ones, except they were over a gigabyte, and then I wasn't able to upload it, at least through that software. That that was my limitation. That's a newer thing. They used to have a larger upload size, but I think they have like a notice that maybe they're having server troubles. I'm not sure, but I was limited to size, so that's why some of these are your older videos. But
I saw some of my videos. Bayfield Economic Development reposted our videos of the business park. It was actually an older video from the spring, and I liked that video better than the last two videos I did that other day that I went out there, because my hands started to get cold. I got a little jerky.
yeah, I bought a pack of hand warmers and new gloves. Like they're mitten, or no, they're gloves and mittens. So that way
Mhm,
I was thinking that, and they're grippy too. So I was
mhm,
thinking that, if I had to fly in the colder weather, it would help. I'd have the
mhm,
dexterity of the finer of the gloves inside, but the grip of the mitten. So,
mhm.
um,
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I like the bag idea, but I gotta sew that.
I've got a sewing machine.
I
Not
have
great at
that too.
sewing yet.
I have it too. That one property right there, that's not even Bayfield County. There's one in there that's not Bayfield County, but that's okay. They don't know that.
Ooh, which one would that be? that?
That one there. Image.
So I saw something, if you look at the very start of this, is something diving out of the sky.
Where?
I'm gonna see, I'm gonna pull it back here. The top left. Oh, it's buffering. I'm not sure if it'll. Well, anyway, too, and then these, your videos are all, I darkened all the videos as well, so that's not your actual brightness. Just so that the text would stand out.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, I didn't really notice. You think something fell out of the sky?
Yeah, I think there's like a raptor or something in the top left.
Yeah.
You see it? There?
No. You mean flying?
Yeah, if you look like right in this top, like right by the sea.
Yeah. What happened? It fell out? Oh.
No, it looks like something's diving, either diving or
Yeah.
falling.
I think diving, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I never noticed that. You know, the other thing is I don't really look at the video after. You shoot it and it's like, here you go, this is the video, and everybody else watches it. I watch it, so it's like, I don't know, the quality. Those are the islands in Rusk County I was doing. This was early on when I was practicing.
I really like this one a lot. I like the viewpoint of it. Definitely
well, I could,
is my computer glitching.
Yeah, I could do something of a video like this one for Bayfield County though.
Sure,
Yeah, this is me just practicing.
Over water?
Early on. If it's gonna crash in water or crash on the land, it's still a goner. You know.
No, but I like this one a lot.
Yeah. The river. Well, it's a dam. But yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Well, good job.
Thanks.
We might do what do you call it? Remote / a hybrid one in the county forest or in the county boardroom.
Okay,
So,
in the future.
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
You'll have to check that out and make sure that nobody else is using it. But,
okay. Yeah, then I'll figure out or we'll figure out dates and stuff so that I can start reaching out to some people now.
yeah.
Again, I'm glad it came together because honestly, I think I got 2 or 3 additional presentations like the end of last week. So I got very lucky there.
Well, and you saw you had 30 or 40 people kind of coming or going, and they know to show up. So we just need to give them the content.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Ooh, and then also in the future, I think we'll definitely, maybe you and I can do this together in the future once we figure out a date. But instead of doing a Microsoft Teams meeting, doing a webinar or a live event, because then I can turn off cameras during presentations as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Sorry, that was a family.
That's right.
Oh gosh. But yeah, so I can control that at least for during the presentation. And I tried to make all the presenters be the one that is the star of the show, I guess.
Uh,